Hello everybody, it's your girl, Pony, and today I'm going to be ranking Monster High inspired doll lines. If you were around for the very beginning of Monster High, you'll know that it was a huge surprise both to Mattel and to the entire doll industry that it ended up being the bombshell that it was, and it didn't take long before other companies decided to try their own hand at making Freaky fabulous. Now, I want to specify that I'm going to be including anything that is inspired by Monster High, as well as actual knockoffs. I also want to make it clear that me saying that a line is Monster High inspired is in no way an insult, as I actually really love some of these lines, and all art has its inspiration from somewhere. So, let's get into it. Now, before we get into the actual ranking, I'm going to explain my tier list that I have here. Please ignore that it is on Fire Alpaca. I didn't want to have to make a tier maker account to make this list. So the top tier we have is Amazing Inspiration, which is any lines that I think really sort of did a really good job at taking the inspiration from Monster High and making them into something that was really, really cool. Then we have Killer Knockoff. This is for lines that are actual knockoffs, but are knockoffs that I kind of love. I felt like they should go in a different tier than ones that are just inspired, because it didn't seem fair to rank a line that was inspired but not a knockoff, and a line that's an actual knockoff but I just love it in the same tier. We have Frightfully Fun, which are ones that I maybe don't like quite as much, but are still a really interesting concept and did a good job with what they had. Monster, meh, is just meh. Okay, it's supposed to be like, ooh, like the sound Ghost makes, don't worry about it. And then Freaky Confusion. That one's just for lines that I don't understand or don't like. Alright, let's go. First things first, I feel like we have to start with probably the most infamous of the lines that were inspired by Monster High, which is Bratzilla's House of Witches. Oh yeah, if you were in the fandom when this happened, you remember the fan wars. You remember. And I'm going to put Bratzilla's House of Witches in Amazing Inspiration. Now, I actually love Bratzillas. I think that they are so pretty, but it hasn't always been like that. Back in the day, I was one of those Monster High fans who sort of side-eyed them and was like, oh, they're just a Monster High copy. And anyone who denies that they were inspired by Monster High is probably kidding themselves, but I genuinely think that while they do have similar theming, they are different enough to stand on their own, and I really like some of the designs that they've come up with. I especially am fond of Jade, even though I don't have any of her. I really love the color scheme she has going on, and the little heart pupils in her eyes. And then one of my other absolute favorites is Ileana Honesty, who I do have, and she is just stunning. So yeah, Bratzilla's is at the top of this list. I would love to see MGA bring them back to compete with Monster High again, but I don't think that they're going to. I think that they're going to use Shadow High to do that instead. So we'll have to keep an eye out. Next up is Mystixx Vampires. Mystixx Vampires. Where do I put this? I'm gonna put Mystixx Vampires in... Okay. So Mystixx Vampires is... I just don't like the faces. I find them really, really creepy. Some of them are better than others. And Mystixx Vampires' whole gimmick was that they were two-faced, literally. So they had a face on the front of their head mold, and they had a face on the back of their head mold. And the idea was that they would all come with wigs, and when you put the wig on, you wouldn't be able to see whichever one was in the back, but then you could turn it around, and in theory, I could see that being an interesting concept. Like, if there was a Monster High doll with that feature, I would maybe get on board depending on like how their design looked. But with the designs that the Mystixx vampires have, I'm not a fan. I'm sorry if there's any Mystixx stands out there who really like them, but I don't like their faces. They look like they're trying really, really hard to just copy the Monster High faces, but to the point where it reaches that sort of uncanny valley for me. I will say though, I meant to mention in the Bratzilla section, the Bratzilla's theme song is an absolute banger. The Mystixx Vampires theme song is terrible, and I love it so much. If you haven't listened to it, you should go watch it. Though, do be warned, if you're sensitive to flashing lights, if you watch the music video version, there is a section that has pretty rapid flashing lights for like, I think maybe 3 seconds, so yeah, be aware of that. But Mystixx Vampires, I like them for the joke. I don't actually like the dolls, but go listen to the theme song. Khaki girls. Alright. Khaki girls are gonna go in Monster Meh. Khaki girls are Monster High knockoffs, and they do nothing with it. They don't do anything with it. There are some lines of knockoffs that, like, are funny or, like, actually bring some interesting elements, but Khaki girls, from everything that I've seen of them, they literally just try to copy the dolls exactly, but do it not as well. And for that, they have to go in Monster Meh. There's nothing particularly interesting for me to say about them. They're just there. I like their name because it doesn't make any sense, but they're Novi Stars. So, Novi Stars is going in Frightfully Fun. I would put it in Amazing... Oh, maybe I should put it in Amazing Inspiration. I don't know. Yeah, I'll give it the leg up. So, the reason why I was debating that, I really like Novi Stars, but there's just a few things that I wish were different about them that would make me just, like, love them the same amount that I love Bratzillas, basically. I wish they were Barbie-sized, and I'm so sad that they actually got cancelled, like, right before they were going to release Barbie-sized dolls. Like, they were going to have dolls that were, like, the size of a Monster High doll, and the brand didn't last long enough and it ended before that. If they had done that, they would be all the way at the top, because I really love some of their designs. They really got interesting and creative, and I think that having them all be aliens actually does make them stand apart from Monster High pretty well. Obviously, they're still riding on that supernatural wave, but it is different. Instead of going, oh, we have all these monsters, it's like, no, we're sticking to this sci-fi theme. I really love them. I think their inset eyes are so pretty. I love their lashes. I always thought that they were a little bit overpriced when I was younger, and it was just because of the fact that they don't have articulation, and they were so much smaller than all the other dolls on the market, but they were the same price. And while now that I'm a little bit older, I understand, like, that doesn't necessarily exactly correlate, it always felt like not as good of a deal when I was younger. But I still do wish that they would have made the Barbie-sized dolls. They didn't. But overall, Novi Stars, very cute, very fun, love them. Next up is Twilight Teens. Twilight Teens. Okay, Twilight Teens is gonna go in... It's gonna go in Frightfully Fun for me. I don't love it. I think some of the dolls... Like, I'm not a super huge fan of their faces, honestly. Something about, like, the way that their face mold is and the way that their faces are painted just, like, is kinda eh. But I do appreciate that even though they are inspired by Monster High, they do not have any characters that are, like, one-to-one the same character as a Monster High character, because there's a lot of lines that do that. Like, they'll be like, oh, they have a vampire whose main color scheme is pink and black. Okay, we're gonna make a vampire whose main color scheme is pink and black. And even though they use similar monsters, like Ghostilla is a ghost, obviously, Ghostilla doesn't really look like Spectre very much. There's a few characters where you can see that there's maybe a few more similarities, like this one doll has a haircut and a skin tone that's like very similar to Venus McFlytrap. But overall, I think that they did pretty good. They're not my favorite. I like that they have this motorcycle playset. I think that's fun. But my favorite thing about Twilight Teens has to be that they have a character whose name is literally Nemonia. Like, I think it's supposed to be like Nemo and then Ia, so maybe you're supposed to pronounce it like Nemonia, but like, come on, they had to know it's Nemonia. They have a character named Nemonia. And I think that's really funny. So, yeah, they get points for that. Next up is Pinkie Cooper. And for me, Pinkie Cooper is going to also go in frightfully fun. Though I will say I do think, like, quality-wise, maybe I'll... never mind. It's going in Amazing Inspiration. I don't feel right putting it in the same category as Twilight Teens, because I think it's, like, objectively probably a better doll line. Pinkie Cooper is a line that I feel like some people might think is a little bit of a stretch to say that it's inspired by Monster High, but although I do believe the idea may have been in their minds before Monster High released, regarding the time it came out and everything else, I don't think it would have been greenlit except for after they knew of Monster High's success. Pinkie Cooper is really cute. I like that they decided to do little pigtail-like hair pieces for the dog ears. The fact that you can switch them out is fun, if a little unsettling, like when you don't have them actually switched yet. But they're a very unique doll line. They have articulation, and their fashions, honestly, are pretty cute. They're very 2010s, but they are pretty cute. Overall, they're just really adorable, and they brought some overboard cutesiness to a time during doll lines that was mostly fascinated with gothic things, and I think they stand out in that regard. I don't have any yet, but if I saw one at my local toy show for a good price, I might pick one up because I think they'd be a good thing to have in a collection. A nice, unique piece. Alright, next up is Equestria Girls. Okay, so firstly, I'm gonna put them in Frightfully Fun because I actually have a lot to talk about. So firstly, there's two different Equestria Girls lines. So there's the original Equestria Girls line, which was released when the films initially came out, and then later on they decided to release another set of dolls that look entirely different. Out of these two different types of dolls, I'm not entirely sure which one I like better. I tend to lean towards the second wave just because I feel like their faces are a little nicer, a little more accurate to the actual movies, and they have articulation, which the original line lacked. So I don't have any of the original Equestria Girls, and I actually don't have any of the second ones anymore. I had them for a while, but I ended up giving them to someone else. Anyway, the original line, the faces are cute, very cute, but they never really sat super great with me, I think because they really just don't look like the cartoon, although they are quite pretty, and I will say they're more glammed up makeup-wise than the second wave, which is a personal preference. I personally like very glamorous makeup on my dolls most of the time. And I do like some of the outfits that they had, though the materials tended to be not the best quality. I will say that I really appreciate that some of the Equestria Girls dolls were made of fan favorite but not main characters, such as the one for Trixie, which is one of the dolls that I actually would consider getting for my collection, as well as Queen Chrysalis. And Equestria Girls Decora has been a doll that I have wanted since I found out about her, because I just love her. I think she's so cute. I love her mohawk. She's amazing. And during the initial wave of Equestria Girls, they really were going with the over-the-top fashions for most of the lines, and they have some really interesting outfits, like this rainbow dash with the side shave and this, like, black tulle skirt and stockings. Like, she looks super awesome. They also made, photo finish, and they made so many characters during this run. And a lot of them are really cute. One of the things that always threw me off about them, though, was, like I said, their faces, and also the fact that they didn't have any articulation. The second wave has better articulation, and I somewhat like their faces better, though they feel, I guess, a bit more blank sometimes to me than the originals. The originals, I think, have maybe a little bit more personality to them. I don't know, it's really hard to tell, and it depends on each doll individually as well. The second ones are also very cute, and I would say almost, like, better quality, but it kind of depends on the doll. Anyway, both of them are pretty cute, both of them are pretty good. I feel like they could be better, but they're nice, they're sweet, they're fun, and there's a few that I wouldn't mind having in my collection, so they're gonna go in Frightfully Fun. Next up, Ever After High. Okay, so this one's going straight to the top. Listen, Ever After High is iconic. Ever After High is amazing. Possibly one of the best Monster High inspired doll lines to exist. And yes, I do consider it Monster High inspired, because if it wasn't for Monster High's success, I don't think Ever After High would have been made by Mattel. I don't think they would have been like, yeah, let's do, there's Daughters and Sons of Legendary Monsters went well. Let's do the Daughters and Sons of Legendary Fairy Tale characters. But Ever After High is iconic. Ever After High has quite possibly some of the prettiest dolls I have ever seen in a Playline doll line. And I know a lot of people don't like their faces, and actually I was one of those people at the beginning too. I didn't like their flat faces, but they grew on me. It did help that as they went on, they started to introduce some more face molds, and they gradually started to make the characters look more distinct. That's one of the problems with Ever After High, is that a lot of the characters just look really similar. Like, Apple and Blondie, because they have the same face mold and stuff, look extremely similar, and like obviously Blondie's hair is a bit more yellow and Apple's is a bit more blonde, ironically. But that is a problem that they slowly started to fix, but never quite got all the way to it, because by the time they were really starting to work on it, the franchise ended. Yeah, let's talk about the Ever After High reboot. Everything went downhill. I don't like any of the reboot dolls. I don't like the smiling faces, and I don't like them. There we go. But the original line. Listen, I'm a fairy tale girl, okay? Fairy tale nerd right here. I love them. If you make something that is a fairy tale adaptation, I will automatically be interested in it. And this line, not only the dolls, because the dolls are so beautiful, but the story that it had, the characters that it had, is so good, so fascinating, and I'm so sad that it ended the way it did, and I'm so sad that we're probably not getting it back ever. Ever is maybe a bit dramatic. Anytime soon. Because obviously Mattel has the Disney Princess license back now, and yeah, they're not gonna touch Ever After High with a 10-foot pole. But it was beautiful while it lasted, and yeah, one of my favorite doll lines. Let's go. Midnight Magic is up next. Alright. Midnight Magic is gonna go in... Okay. Midnight Magic is really just a Monster High knockoff that's about as generic a Monster High knockoff as you can get. I believe it was sold at like Dollar General for about $5 a piece, and the dolls are just pretty boring. There's not much to say about them. I think one of them looks like almost exactly like Draculaura, because obviously, you know, she's the fan favorite, so you gotta make a doll that's copying her. But they're just, you know, they came in these coffin-shaped boxes, which is fun, but their faces aren't awful. Some of them look kind of pretty, but I'm not a huge fan of really anything. Their outfits are kind of boring. Their faces are not terrible, but not super interesting. And once again, they were only $5, so, you know, it's a decent price. It's not like they were charging you a ton for this, but I don't have that much to say about them. I don't think they did anything particularly interesting with the concept that they had. And yeah, they're just there. Next up is Once Upon a Zombie. Hey, what do you do when Mattel is currently releasing an incredible hit brand of monster dolls and also an incredible hit brand of fairy tale dolls? You just combine them, obviously. Once Upon a Zombie, I'm gonna put it in frightfully fun. The dolls are pretty decent, I think. Though I will say they really borrow from the Disney versions of the characters, which, like, you know, most pop culture things do, because that's the version that's been ingrained into everybody's brains. But I like to see when they don't do that, and when they make the different fairy tale characters, you know, their own. Once Upon a Zombie is a doll line that also had books, which I have not read, but I'm very interested in reading, just to see what it is they're about, because I do not know the Once Upon a Zombie lore. I don't know. I don't know it. I should know it. I know I should know everything about all of the doll lines ever, but yeah. They had an app, they have some YouTube videos, and they had a few dolls. Overall, they're an interesting idea, and I don't know, like, they're just kind of fun. I'd really like to see what exactly it is that is going on with them. They were going to, at one point, release a Snow Queen character, it looks like, and that ended up never happening, which makes me sad, because if you all know me, you know that the Snow Queen is my favorite fairy tale character, and anytime there is anything fairy tale related, I am just waiting for them to release a Snow Queen doll. So, not doll. Not everything fairy tale related has dolls, but yeah, they're fun, they're cute. I don't have any, but, you know, once again, if I saw one for a decent price at my local toy show, I might pick it up for my collection. I like having weird random dolls and like one-offs from different lines to put in my collection, just to be like, oh yeah, that was a weird thing that existed. Yeah. Next up is Goth Angels, which is going in freaky confusion. Y'all, I don't know what is going on with these dolls. They look very much like Dollar Tree tried to do Monster High. Something about their faces is, like, just really weird. Like, that face, I don't like it. And they're very clearly just trying to copy actual Monster High characters. Like, there's no thought put into this. There's no creativity put into this. It's literally just, okay, let's see if we can make the Monster High characters, but worse, but not as good. And I know that I said that that's really similar to what Khaki Girls does, but at least Khaki Girls does it better. These, I don't like. I don't like their faces, I don't like the proportions that they have, I don't like that they're not articulated. I don't know what's going on with these. They're not my favorite. Alright, and last but certainly not least, we have the astonishing Ardonna girls. And Ardonna girls are going in killer knockoff. Ardonna girls are my favorite Monster High knockoffs. I really, really want to get my hands on one of these dolls because they are quite possibly the best Monster High knockoffs I've ever seen. They have some dolls that are literally just like a bunch of the other knockoffs where it's literally just trying to copy a doll, but they actually look pretty decent on those ones. But my favorite ones that they have are the ones where they're not trying to copy a specific doll and they're just like doing their own thing. Ardonna girls also have some Ever After High knockoff dolls, but there's a few lines where it's just like, there is no Monster High doll that matches this. Like, this is just a thing they decided to do. Or there's a few lines where it's like, okay, this is clearly supposed to be like one of the pre-existing Monster High characters, but they are on a completely different line, a completely different outfit, and I love Ardonna girls. I think they're so fun. Some of them just crack me up, and they're my favorite, and I really, really want to get my hands on one eventually. Fortunately, nobody really seems to have them in stock anymore, and all of the ones that I find the most interesting seem to be the hardest to get. So I don't know if I'll ever actually get an Ardonna girl, but we can hope. We can hope. And with that, that is going to conclude my ranking of Monster High inspired doll lines. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you know about any of these lines, or if I missed any that you know of, because you know, there are just so many, like, and some of them have names that are really generic, so they're hard to get photos of and Google. But if you have a favorite Monster High knockoff or a favorite Monster High inspired doll line, please let me know in the comments. And with that, I will say, I hope you have a fantastic day.